Adrian Washington stands as a prominent figure in the realm of commercial real estate entrepreneurship, particularly within the vibrant and changing landscape of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Adrian's journey into the real estate world began with an investment in just one house, then blossomed into a larger vision, deeply rooted in community revitalization and urban renewal, in what became his first very successful organization, the Neighborhood Development Company. Ever the innovator, today Adrian is driven by a new vision to meet the needs of major commercial real estate developers, like himself, by decreasing the extended times and exorbitant expenditures associated with the most challenging part of commercial building, the foundational components we don't even see underground. Adrian and his team have launched Platform LLC, a company designed to bring multiple efficiencies to the complex, time-consuming, expensive aspects of laying the groundwork for commercial buildings. Platform LLC is pushing the boundaries of innovation in real estate development, leveraging cutting-edge technology and eliminating process inefficiencies. Throughout his entrepreneurial journey, Adrian has remained steadfast in his commitment to excellence, integrity, and social responsibility, championing urban revitalization. I'm Damon Davis, and this is my Discovery Diary with DC commercial real estate entrepreneur, Adrian Washington. Adrian, thanks so much for being with me this morning. I appreciate it. This is really great.
Great, Damon. I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent. We met probably, I would say 20, 25 years ago. I was just starting out trying to find opportunities for real estate investing. And one of the things that I discovered was NDC. So I remember, we've known each other for a long time. So this is good that we're sitting down to do this. Thank you.
Oh, great.
I'd love to hear a little bit about who Adrian was in your earlier days. Tell me about where you grew up and just kind of what kind of kid you were and what you were into.
Okay. I grew up right here in DC in Anacostia, so across the river. It was a great time to be growing up. I really loved it there. And so I'm a native Washingtonian. People always say that's pretty rare, but there are like a lot of us around, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's really funny. You're right. There are not a lot of local Washingtonians. It's such a transient city. And so you always meet people from other places who come here to do work, but you're a native. What was your sort of thinking in terms of getting into real estate in the Washington, D.C. area? Were you always interested in real estate, or what kinds of things were you into when you were younger?
Interestingly, I really wasn't. I was always interested in business and entrepreneurship. And I remember even as a little kid, having a paper route or doing yard sales or just things like that. So I was always business oriented, always entrepreneurial oriented, but real estate really didn't come into the picture. I went through my whole undergraduate career, graduate school, getting an MBA. I worked after that as a management consultant. It really wasn't until the age of 30 where I really even became interested in real estate. And it wasn't professionally, it really became out of my own personal passion. I had bought a brownstone in the area of DC called Detroit Park, and was working crazy hours as a management consultant and not really liking it, not really enjoying it. It wasn't tangible enough for me. But I bought this old house, and in my off time, I was fixing it up. And I was literally doing carpentry and doing plumbing and doing electrical, doing the whole gamut. And I was like, at a certain point, it's like, this is what I love doing. I love seeing this transformation. And it was a cool neighborhood. The neighborhood was in transition, but it had all kind of diversity in terms of ages, races, income groups. I love that energy. I love that feeling of being with a lot of different people. I like the walkability. It was something, people talk about later ages, but I like being able to walk to places. I like the cool architecture and really the authenticity of the architecture and the types there. And so that's what I fell in love with. And I was like, forget this job I didn't like. Let me jump into something and do something I was really passionate about.
That's really cool. I wonder, have you looked back at that house that was your first investment and seen what did you purchase it for and what is it worth now? Do you remember what you bought it for?
Oh, I do remember. I bought it it was on the market for $115,000. And I was like, I'm not paying that. And I bargained him down to, I think, like 108. And this was a 3-story, beautiful brownstone with a basement, great views. And so that house, I look back at it now, and it's worth well over $1 million. And,
Incredible.
Probably close to 1.5. I was there at the beginning when things really started to take off in DC.
That's really cool. So I wonder then, you started with one brownstone, and I would imagine you recognize your love for the creation of a new project and evolving a place into
Mm.
something, looking at the bones and recognizing that it had more potential. And that also,
Exactly.
assume that it had some resale value. Tell me a little bit about how you made this transition to go from going from one brownstone to what ended up being the neighborhood development company.
It was a gradual transition. It wasn't something I sat there and said, hey, I'm going to take it to this particular height. Did the house I lived in, loved that, and did my first deal. I actually had a friend of mine. He had inherited property in Northeast from his grandmother. And it's funny, it's just sort of the nature of how good deals work is when two people or entities come together and they have needs that are complementary. He had possession of the property. I had the capital and the energy and the desire to fix it up. And so we just formed a partnership. And he contributed the property, we contributed the money and the sweat equity. We put it together and we turned something that was run down into something beautiful. And we sold it and we were both happy. So that's where it started. I started doing a few more. And then I decided to make it really into a company. So when I formed NDC, so it started at that point of just doing row houses, but then the next year we were doing 4-unit buildings. A year after that, we were doing 10-unit buildings and went up and up from there. So it just really kind of evolved from something that was a passion. I turned into a business. I didn't know where it was going, but 25 years later, I must have done something right.
Must have touched on something really cool. That's really interesting to hear. And I loved what you said about the partnership that you formed. A lot of people, we tend to want to do things alone, right? I've
Hmm.
got an idea, I want to get this done, and we're
Hmm.
reluctant to bring on partners. But the recognition that a partner can actually bring a skill set or a set of capabilities that you don't have. One person may
Hmm.
have all the capital and the other one has all the skills and sweat equity. And that actually is a perfect partnership right there.
Hmm.
I think it's important for people to recognize that finding someone to work with can actually alleviate many of the burdens that they would probably take on their own. We think
Hmm.
to ourselves, how am I going to do this? Instead
Hmm.
of who can I get to do this or who can I do this with? So tell
Exactly.
me a little bit about NDC's growth, because if I recall correctly, you have done some amazing projects. Talk about some of the ones that you've been most proud of, especially
Mhm.
as they got bigger.
Okay. No, we've done over 50 projects over the course of 25 years. We've done some small ones in the beginning, literally single family house, 3 or 4 unit buildings, up to the buildings in the 70, 75 up and up units. We've been joint ventures in some very large projects in DC, City Vista, City Center downtown. And so we've been involved in really mega projects, some projects in Baltimore. And they're kind of like children, Damon. It's kind of like you don't have favorites. You have things about one that are like pretty superlative and things about others, but you love them all. But I mean, I've been proud of all of them. I mean, I think our in the last several years, NDC has evolved in its focus to mission-driven projects, both in terms of commercial and affordable housing. For right now, for instance, we're building a property off of Benning Road that is a affordable housing project. So for people with low income, even some people with no income, people who have been experiencing homelessness, and they'll be able to live in our building. And it's also from a sustainability standpoint, it's a net zero building. It is the first affordable housing net zero building in the DC metropolitan area. So we're very proud of that. And next door, we're actually creating a community. And so we've created a commercial village, if you will, that brings healthy food choices to a food desert in our Market 7 project. We're working with a young woman who works in the shea butter industry, she's creating a manufacturing hub there. And
Mm.
she links it with women in Ghana who formerly had been exploited, and she's doing fair trade. So we're doing a lot of things that help the community, and they're also beautiful buildings, and they bring in new energy and life. So I'm proud, and I really try to be proud of every project that we do.
Yeah. You've spoken in the years that I've known you consistently about this need to engage in communities that need it most.
Hmm.
More often than not, I've heard you talk about the need to do development in areas that are challenged. Why are you so committed to making sure that these kinds of underdeveloped areas have the sort of ecosystem that you just described in terms of not only the housing, but the community around it, but and not in the hot areas, in some of the more challenging areas of the city. What is that commitment about?
I mean, it's about giving back. It's about using my skills and skills of my company to be able to help communities. I think as developers of color, we have a extra responsibility to help communities of color. And if not us, who's going to do it? And so I just find it very rewarding, very challenging. And you also talked about partnerships. I think it's very rewarding to get to work with people who are similar mind and working with people in the community who know what those communities want, but don't have the skills and resources to do it. Working with capital providers that are focused on these areas and who want to do mission-driven projects. Working with architects who want to design projects for that area. Working with contractors who want to work in those areas, want to hire local residents. So it's really using my skills and the things that I've been blessed with over the years to give back and to do good and have creative projects that really get me and my team's juices flowing.
You mentioned that this Benning Road project is the first net zero project of its kind in that area. Can you explain a little bit more of what a net zero project is? Where were we in construction before? And what is net zero to the construction and building industry now?
Yeah. So net zero is a term that means that a building generates enough things like electricity and water purification and things like that that make it a net zero contributor to the carbon footprint. And so we do that through things of, for instance, this property uses geothermal energy. And so we dug all these wells deep into the earth. And so the amount of heating and cooling that comes from that doesn't need additional electricity. It has solar power panels on the roof to generate electricity. It's super well insulated. It's super well ventilated. And so it's really a challenging but doable type of process that says this building will not contribute to global warming. This building will be very energy efficient so that the residents who live there will have low or no utility bills. And so it's really just a total system to help the people and help the planet.
That's amazing. I hadn't thought about that when you said net zero. I kind of knew what you meant from the carbon footprint perspective, but from the perspective of a resident who's going to be living there as potentially low income, the reduction of their energy costs, the reduction of the cost to live in that building is pretty significant as well. That's really fascinating. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you've been doing development with Neighborhood Development Company for 25 years, but more recently, you've started a new venture. This is a guy who has an entrepreneurial spirit, Adrian, and I would love for you to tell me about the development of your newest company. What was the reason you started it, and what is it called? What does it do?
Okay. So the company is called Platform. It is a new approach to building what we have looked at. If you look at a typical building, think of the vertical element. That's the part that everybody sees, the windows, the roof, all the things above. But really the bottom part, what we call a platform, is really a critical part of the building. It represents 25% of the cost of the building. It represents, more importantly, 40% of the time it takes to build a building. And it was really a backwater of the industry. Over the time I've been in the industry, construction costs have grown every single year. And construction schedules have gotten longer and longer. And it's made it harder for developers like myself and others to make projects pencil out, to make them feasible. And I saw a lot of energy, a lot of capital, a lot of really smart, energetic people trying to find different ways to handle that vertical part. And when I went to these companies, I said, well, that sounds great. Sounds very exciting. What are you doing about this platform part? They said, well, no, we're not doing that. We just do it the same way that we always did. And I said, aha, there is an opportunity to help the industry, and there's an opportunity to have a profitable niche in that industry. So we started Platform 3 years ago. We've done 6 projects now. We have signed up 9 clients. 3 of those have gone on to be repeat clients, and the ones working on now, we expect those to be as well. So the company has really grown. The industry has seen what we're doing. They like it. It's innovation. So I believe it's really a way that we can make the building of buildings faster, cheaper, and better.
That's really amazing. It's funny how sometimes we don't think about the pieces you don't see. I loved what
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
said about people generally think about a building as everything above the ground, right? That's the obvious stuff
Yeah.
to me. But you said that 25%, a quarter of the cost is underground, the hole that
Hmm.
you see before a big construction thing starts.
Hmm.
And 40% of the time is dedicated to that foundational layer. Is that right?
That's right. And it's one of the things that I just saw. I mean, I was a guy who literally was like staring into those holes. And people might say, well, it takes a long time to get out of the hole. Once you get out, things can really get going. And I was like, well, why does it take so long? And what I really saw was just a lack of focus on that area. I think it's a backwater of the industry. I saw a lack of coordination. People were doing it the same way they always did. And it was just an area that people just accepted. It was one of those pain points in the industry that people just say, that's just the way it is.
Right.
And to
Once
me,
we
that
get
was
over
like
this
a
hump,
challenge. I'm
eventually we'll
like,
speed up.
no, there's a
Yeah.
better way to do it. And so we can make it faster. We can make it cheaper. The overall building would be done faster and cheaper. And talk about 40% of the time is money in construction. You're borrowing money. You've got interest rate carry. You've got return on investment that's longer because of a longer period. So if we could shrink that period substantially, we can make more buildings feasible.
Tell me, without giving away the secret sauce, what are some of the efficiencies that you've noticed that need to be built on?
Mhm. I mean, it starts with a focus. Most people, architects, engineers, general contractors, they focus on the whole building. So that's the very first part, that we focus only on the platform part. And so that brings us expertise, and that's all we do. So we're doing it better. The second is the area of coordination. There are about 7 different construction components, divisions on the industry that are the platform part: structural concrete, excavation, sheeting and shoring. What we have done is created best-in-class companies in all of those fields that do that work. And so even on an individual basis, they're better than the competition. But finally, what we do is we bring them all together. We coordinate them. And so there's no finger pointing. It's a single point of responsibility. And so that just makes the process flow faster and go smoother. And that's how it works.
That's amazing. So it's been 3 years. Did you say 6 or 7 projects?
We've done over a dozen projects, and we have 3 under construction now.
Mhm.
And like I said, we just signed up our 9th client, and we're looking to sign up a couple more, hopefully by the end of this quarter. I think, fingers crossed, we're looking really good in that. And so I'm just really proud of the growth of the company.
Yeah, and you should be. I was, so full disclosure, I'm an investor in Platform, and because I invested in NDC and I knew you, Adrian, I trusted you, and I've seen what you can do. I said, I know if this guy's come up with this idea, it's got to be something amazing. And sure enough, being on the investor calls, I can see what the vision is. I understand more clearly what you're talking about in terms of those 7 different areas of the construction process, and it definitely seems like one of those old, slow, inefficient areas that really could use some innovation. So it's truly impressive to see that you've come up with what it seems like is going to be not only an effective but a profitable area to Platform. What are some of your goals for Platform LLC going forward?
So just in the past year, we doubled our revenue. So that was good, but not good enough. And so actually for 2024, we are forecasting to quadruple the revenue that we did the year before. So we're very excited about that. We want to bring in at least 5 additional clients. We've done about a dozen projects in our entire history. In 2024 alone, we expect to top that in a single year. We're going to
Mm.
grow in terms of people. Right now, it's a 30-employee company. We see that growing to, let's say, a 50-employee company by the end of this year. And we just want to continue to get better. I mean, our whole motto, our whole ethos is better, faster, cheaper. And so I expect every project that we do is going to be better, faster, and cheaper than the project that we did before.
Amazing. I love it. You are a DC based guy, but construction happens all around us. The DMV is a very large and diverse area. You could be
Mhm.
in Northern Virginia and northern parts of Maryland, Central Maryland, and out into other parts of Virginia towards Tyson's and over
Mhm.
the bridge and stuff like that. Tell me about what you think of in terms of the expansion of your projects. Because I know these companies that you're dealing with are not just looking for construction here in DC, they're doing projects in all of the
Mhm.
areas that I mentioned and more. How does it feel when you think about the broad market of the DMV area and what the potential is?
We think Platform is eventually going to be a nationwide company. I mean, the projects that we've done so far have been DC and Maryland. We're bidding on a couple of Virginia projects right now, so I fully expect by this time, a couple months from now, we'll be completely in the DMV area. and we see what we're doing is applicable to other areas of the country. We've looked around, we've done market studies. No one's doing it the way that we do. So we see opportunities in areas close by, Richmond, North Carolina, Tennessee. That's our sort of expansion plan, let's say 2 to 3 years from now. And then beyond that, it can be a nationwide company.
Really incredible. Yeah, that's a wonderful vision. I'm curious, I don't know a lot about the commercial real estate market at all. What is, and it's my understanding that commercial in terms of office space is really challenged, but I suspect that I know there's a housing shortage. And I
Mm-hmm.
can see in my own area, I live here in downtown Silver Spring. You drive down Georgia Avenue, they took out what used to be Walter Reed, and every single square foot of that
Mm-hmm.
is residential with the exception of some mixed use on the ground floor. So
Mm-hmm.
there's construction all around us. What do you think about when you think of the housing shortage and
Mm-hmm.
the challenges of the sort of corporate building, the office space building? Do you see any challenges or bumps in the road in terms of the volatility of the commercial space?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry a long time and I've seen up cycles and down cycles. And there's no question right now the office is challenged. I think those things will work out over this course of time. Some things change because of COVID and they're going to shift back. Other things are not. I think work from home, at least in a hybrid model, is here to stay. And so there needs to be a conversion of some of that office space. That sector is going to be challenged for a while. But the great thing about the platform method is it's applicable to commercial buildings, it's applicable to office buildings, applicable to both single family housing, multifamily housing. It's applicable to, say, school construction. So we're bidding on a couple of school projects right now. It's applicable to medical buildings. And so there are things like medical parks, things like that being built. And it's also applicable to infrastructure. As you probably know, under the Biden administration, a huge infrastructure funding bill was passed a couple of years ago. Those funds are just starting to be allocated. And what platform does can also be those skills in underground construction, concrete, podium, things like that. Those can be applied to infrastructure projects as well. So we've got a wide range of areas to play in. And it's a huge industry nationwide. It's about $1.3 trillion a year. And so we can just get a decent sized slice of that. We've got plenty of room to grow.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of some of those things that you talked about. I just, one, naturally assumed that a single family home was probably too small to benefit from the method. But
Mm-hmm.
as you said it, I realized that's a digging of the hole and getting the resources laid
Mm-hmm.
out too. But those other markets that you talked about, from building infrastructure, highways, and government buildings to medical facilities and educational facilities, you're absolutely right. This is not it is not unique. It is very unique to have a company that is so malleable to a variety of different opportunities. That's really fascinating. Really cool. Well,
Sure.
Adrian, I would love to hear a little bit about you when you are not being an entrepreneur. Everybody, when we're entrepreneurs, we're focused on our business very much, but there is a time outside of our lives where you want to relax and decompress a little bit. What does Adrian Washington do to step back from the fray and take a
Mhm.
little relaxation?
Well, like most of us, our first focus is on our family, and so I'm blessed to have a great family. My kids aren't little anymore. My oldest is 28. She's getting married this year, so we're
Wow,
very
congrats.
excited and focused on her wedding. My youngest, he's still in college, so he's a young man, but he still needs support. And our middle child is doing well as well. So family is first. I try to stay physically active. I do a lot of different things: biking, playing tennis, going for walks, play golf, and so work
Nice.
out. So all those kind of things you got to keep, especially get a little older. You got to keep the body in shape, and so I do that. I try to give back to the community as well. Damon, I know that you're very involved in the adoption world, and was very privileged to lead the board of the Barker Adoption Foundation, one of the leading adoption foundations here, and also serving other boards as well. So I keep myself busy. I totally focused on platform, but I do try to have a well-rounded life and not just be like a single focus kind of guy.
Yeah, it can be easy to just put your head down and forget about everything else when you're driven for
Mhm.
a mission. That's admirable that you do this kind of work, especially, and thank you for your work in the adoption space. I know that that was something that I admired before when I learned about it. Adrian, this has been wonderful. It's been great to get to know you. I'm glad that people are going to have the opportunity to learn more about Platform LLC. If folks want to be in touch with you or learn about Platform and the investment opportunity, where can they find you and Platform online?
Okay, so the website is platforms-usa.com. My email is awashington@platforms-usa.com. Please look for us, reach out to us, and always happy to talk and meet new people.
Excellent. Fantastic, Adrian. Thanks so much for being here with me today, man. I appreciate it.
Great, and great to be here.
Take care. All the best to you, man. Bye-bye.
Okay.